let's pick which bike is the most suitable for enduro trail riding conditions in 2025. We're gonna pick a two-stroke and a four-strokes to satisfy both people, whoever like the four-stroke better, whoever like the two-stroke better. We're gonna go through all the manufacturers. We're gonna hit the Kawasaki, we're gonna hit Honda, we're gonna hit Yamaha, and of course we're gonna hit KTM. I'm not gonna talk about KTM, Gas, Husqvarna because they're all the same. But we will talk about all of those big manufacturers and see what bike they offer in 2025 and is it good enough to be on the number one position or not. So I think let's hit it with let's just hit it with Honda. That's quite interesting. Honda made, obviously they don't have a two-stroke, but they made a quite good four-stroke, the 450 RX, 250 RX. Both of those bikes in 25 received huge changes. The frame is more flexible, the bike is more suitable for the suspension, it's softer. That's probably why the two brothers didn't like it as much, because they made big changes compared to 2024. So those bikes are more user-friendly, like for the average person, and not so much for the racers anymore. And the 450 received a huge positive feedback on 2025, the RX. The 250, not so much. The 250 engine, it doesn't revs high, or it's not excited as it should, like compared to the others. It corners better, but it's still not the bike I would choose, because the cornerability is just not really there compared to other bikes, even if they make it better. The price point on that bike is pretty good. Now the 450 probably out of questions for most of us, unless if you're doing desert Baja style riding, then the 450 is suitable. Actually, the 450 in 2025 it's a quite good choice for those of you who are doing desert riding, not so much for trail riding. The 250 would be more suitable, but because the engine it's actually get worse than it was in 2024, then that's definitely out of questions. You cannot do the stuff but you would be able to do on other bikes as far as enduro type of riding. And the engine is kind of dies easier than compared to the other ones. And the reason for Honda being the way it is, I don't know if you know that, but Honda doesn't really care what's going on with the enduro world, doesn't really care what's going on with these dirt bike worlds, because their income sources not coming from these bikes. The income sources coming from cars and elsewhere. And so much so, this is like 0 point whatever percent income what the dirt bikes making for them. So probably the CEO doesn't even know what kind of dirt bike they're making, because they just don't care as much. Especially now, because they have that problem with Nissan. The Japanese government tried to put the pressure on Honda to take Nissan over, because Nissan is on its last leg. I guess this is kind of part of the deal lately. All the big manufacturers are just falling. But anyway, Honda, not in the question, good looking bike, but it's just not there. KTM is quite good in 2025. They made the changes. They made the frame more flexible. Probably most of you saying the 350 is the bike for a sports stroke, and probably it is. Not for me. I don't like it. I had my 350 and I just cannot corner that bike. The rotating mass is just killing the cornerability on that bike. It really good to go straight, fast, but not so much to doing like a serious, leaning the bike and doing some corner. I always crashed with that bike. That was the bike who I crashed most in cornering. Very linear, no excitement there. Very linear power, very capable bike overall. But to me, the 350, it's still not on the leaderboard, on top of the leaderboard. It could be the second choice, that would be good. The 250 is more like a motocrosser, you rev the crap out of it. It's not good for us because they offering the 350, so obviously the 350 is way better than the 250 because it has a low torque. It can grind and pulls you up on those sections, and a very versatile bike because you can also use it on the desert and you can also use it on the enduro trails. So it's suitable on both conditions very well. But if I don't own a Yamaha and I don't build my Yamaha and I don't ride a Yamaha, I'm probably gonna say the 350 would be the winner. But because I have what I just said, and the way Yamaha build their bike, the best cornerability, the most exciting engine, it's just spitting the passion out on the exhaust. I mean, that bike, when you get on that bike, I would never thought the Yamaha could be like that. I always looked at the Yamaha, oh, Yamaha, okay, that's fine, but I still stick with my KTMs. I always had KTMs, so you know what that can offer me. And I picked up an old 450 and I built it, and oh my god, it changed my perspective completely. The reverse engine, the way the fuel is like the lower and everything is centralized, the weight, that makes the bike feel much less heavier than actually it is. So the trick is the KTM is lighter than the Yamaha, at least the older ones. The Yamaha outperformed the KTM, even being the KTM being lighter, just because the way they build the Yamaha. And the 2025 250 four-stroke Yamaha, they actually fixed the timing chain issue, so you're not gonna have problem with that like the older ones. 2023 for, I think the 2020 most likely, they had a very skinny timing chain, and it wasn't good for a long term, but now they fixed that. None of those bikes, the Japanese bike offering hydraulic clutch, that's the only downside for those bikes. So Honda, you cannot buy clutch for the X model. You cannot buy a clutch for the 250 four-stroke Yamaha, which is ridiculous. They offer that for the four-stroke 450, but they do not for the four-stroke 250, which would be an excellent trail riding bike because that's the most powerful engine, very strong, very capable engine, extremely playful, longevity. It's just one of those bikes which makes you a better rider. So in my opinion, for this four-stroke, the 250, or if you are a 450 guy, but definitely the Yamaha, the best choice for 2025 to own, because the versatility, and you can really enjoy that bike in a lot of different conditions. Oh, let's just go back to one more thing. The Kawasaki actually tried to do the enduro lineup, but that's still not a true enduro bike. They just made a little modification on the motocross bike, so they can sell that motocross bike for people outside of jumping or outside of the motocross world. But that's not much to say there. The engine is very powerful, aggressive. The suspension is very stiff, so it's not really a good bike for us. It's a good bike overall, but it's not good for the condition what we were talking about, enduro trail riding. Back to two-stroke, since we cleared this out. So apparently Yamaha making two-strokes, still the old one. There is no hydraulic clutch, no electric start. And Cody Webb is working with them. I don't think it's much going to happen because he cannot do a big enough impact to change. Even Fantic, the European dirt bike manufacturer, who actually modifying the Yamahas, and could be a big threat to United States version Yamaha, but Yamaha still doesn't do anything with it. So that tells me they are not interested. Thanks, they are okay selling you the same old two-stroke Yamaha design, but they're not gonna change it, even Cody Webb being there. Sherco quite exciting in 2025. They made a lot of changes. Small manufacturer, really hard to get aftermarket parts for it. That's to me the only downside. You don't getting a lot of aftermarket parts, not like you can get for other bikes. Beta is the same thing. Those old carbureted engines can be quite exciting if you put an aftermarket carb on it, but with the stock setup, to me, it's just not in play. I don't know if you guys know that, but I don't like to mess with the stock carburetor. It's not gonna perform as good as these new design smart carbs and Lexon or whatever they call those other carburetor manufacturers, which is you don't have to change the jetting, you don't have to mess with it, it just works. But it's still carburetor. So that brings only one option, KTM. And yes, KTM. You don't have to worry about it. KTM is not going to go nowhere. Maybe the ownership change. It happens with a lot of manufacturers. GoPro, for example, back in the days, the GoPro owner just spent his money and then he had to sell the company. Now the GoPro owned by another company, but there is nothing wrong with it. You still can get the same product, the same of everything. KTM will be no different. So to me, in 2025, the choice of the bike is the KTM 300XC, and not the W, but the XC. The reason for that, because the W should be lighter with no linkage, but it isn't. The W should receive the same treatment far as the engine goes, like power-wise, but it isn't. And the suspension is just softer, and because there is no linkage, you can argue with me, the PD shocks is better, but they are good. I'm not saying they are not, but high speed, you cannot take the same performance out of those shocks that you can take from the linkage shock. If you go higher speed, you go through bumps, the linkage helps you to stay on track instead of bouncing it off. KTM made a lot of great options for you in 2025, like the factory editions, all of those hard enduro editions. All of those I do not recommend to buy because they are just gadgets and you can make it the way you want it for much less money, except the factory one. The factory KTM in 2025 offers you something what it never been done before. They're giving you a cone valve fork in 2025. I don't know if you know that, but there is the money right there. So if you buy a 2025 factory edition KTM, that's another choice, that's based on the W. But because of that suspension, you have a true value over there, and that suspension is just blow all of the other suspension, stock suspension, away because it's just so much better. So we are talking about the Yamaha 250 FX. We're talking about the KTM 300 XC, and for alternative, just for those W guys, the factory edition, not just the regular W, but the factory edition, which is really gives you a value with that fork. That fork is cost like $3,000 alone. So you really have a good benefit over there. But that's my take on 2025. You tell me what you think, if it's right or wrong, and put it down in the comment. And that's it on this one. And yeah, we're gonna move on to the next one, which is gonna be the KTM update on where are they right now financial wise.